70 years ago, scaremongering Westerners called it the Yellow Peril. Today it's called the People's Republic of China. The rise of a nation so huge is certainly a world event. There's also a reason for the world to shake its shoulders. China is not only the world's most populous country. For the past 20 years, it has had the world's fastest growing economy. Project current growth rate into the future, and you can find China's economy will overtake that of the United States in less than 20 years. True, projecting current trend is an ancient fallacy. True, even when China economy is bigger than America, the average Chinese citizen will still be far poorer than average of American. China as number one may be a distant project, but the reality of China that will demand and command a growing share of the world resources is already here. Richer China presents enormous commercial opportunity for outsiders, also raises political and military concerns. These worries are rarely discussed in public by Western elites, but to many ordinary people it seems obvious that the rise of China has to be a bad thing. And a country with more than a billion people must concern the rest of the world, and is the one with traditions of inherent superiority that go back centuries before the peoples of West come, and at the only for a time to similar idea. This China is also one party state that has clashed several times with its neighbor and repeatedly turned tanks on its own people. Such a chain of thought leads logically to the notion that maybe the West should try to hinder, not help the rise of China, perhaps by cutting back on commercial ties. It is not enough to say, as most Western politics do, China's rise is unstoppable and the West just to learn to live with it, given the importance of trade and foreign investment in China. Outsiders could slow its growth. I bet not sweet. Should they try? Western diplomats, business, and politicians are largely united in saying no China race should be welcome. They say and help. The view is often advanced for short-term reasons, such as a desire not to antagonize China leaders or to win a contract, except for long terms. Orthodox argument of thinking is a stronger China or easier to live with can be called liberal internationalism. The notion that was economic tie between nations grows so political conflicts will fail. China to the world with trade and investment agreements goes, you will invariably make not just stronger but friendlier. Hmm? That was our argument in the first decades of this century that suggests a European war was unthinkable. War broke out nevertheless in 1914. One reason was that Germany was led by the time by a group of militarists, especially of the rest of Europe, anxious to war of their own people, demand for political liberalization, and uninterest in the specific virtues of European commerce. Little as others understood it, Germans then later saw themselves as encircled by a hostile world. The parallel which today's China is striking. You will not find many liberal internationalists in the Chinese leadership. On the contrary, they and many other Chinese has a long memory of being preyed upon by Western and the Japanese imperialism, and they drew from their history a grim notion of the way countries deal with each other. They think it's natural for the strong to prey upon the weak. So next time round, let China be strong one. And they may add, if it does a bit of their own prey, where that is just tit for tat. Of course, they add such sort, oh no, a strong China will never behave like the Western imperialists of old. China said always been peaceful. Rubbish. China forcibly colonized Tibet in 1950 and attacked India in 1922, Vietnam in 1979, and within the past year has grabbed a reef in the South China Sea, threatening violence against Taiwan. All solid justification. In the Chinese view, which is yet another reason why a strong China is likely to be increasingly assertive. The real reason to believe that growth in China will prove to the Western political as well as commercial advantage is that in time is likely to lead to political liberalization, and history suggests that, by and large, democracy are less aggressive than dictatorship. Even the fiercest critics of the United States have to admit that it's 150 years since they were at war with Mexico or Canada, neighbors that it could have defeated with a mouse. Western politicians are not going to say this was current China disrupt, but it must be basis of their long-term strategy in China. And yet, admittedly, there's little sign that China's booming has led to much political losing. Indeed, there's less scope for political organization now than a decade ago, when political freedom has diminished. Personal freedom has increased markedly. Students are no longer routinely assigned jobs by governments. Parents flood into the city to find work. The experience of Asia tigers such as South Korea or Taiwan suggests that in time, great personal and economic freedom does lead to political losing. It is possible that China may resist the trend. The sheer size its communist legacy is relatively poverty compared with the other tigers and relative lack of American influence over its political leadership. All suggest China transitioning to a loosened political system will be even more fragile and less predictable than in other Asian countries. Such fears, as well as a general worry that political change in China could lead not to democracy but to chaos or civil war, incline some Westerners to accept the official China line that the China led by strong leadership is actually in the Western best interest. The history of this century hardly suggests that putting your faith in dictators to keep the peace is a safe bet. The diagnosis of communist oligarchy in China is overwhelming in the West's interest, and it is in the interest of ordinary Chinese themselves. The implications of Western policymakers are threefold. First, they should welcome China's economic growth in the hope, albeit not the certainty, that will lead to political liberalization. Second, they should accept they have little direct influence over internal Chinese politics, so should not see the point of principle in the hope of boasting more than their last. So long as China retains the habit of one-party oligarchy, Western must not be shy of demanding and accept international norm of conduct and meeting its international commitment. The panda may be larger and fiercer than the tiger, but with luck, time, and wealth will tame it.